Hello, we're going to be jumping right into game 2. So let's make sure, yep, we have no sound. Samsung Gaming versus SKT, game 2 playoffs 2017 summer. Video starts a little bit late, so we're going to take a look at the bans here. SKT is on the blue side of this game. They are starting off with Rakan. This is what they were doing last game. They've been Rakan and Morgana. They're just a little backwards this game. They being Morgana first last game and Rakan second. And then we see the Lucian ban targeted at Faker for coming out from Samsung. That's alright. We see the Galio ban also targeted at mainly Faker. But Galio is strong anyway, so I approve of that ban regardless of whether or not it's a target. Oop, sorry. Let's make sure I have everything set up here. Alright. We can actually get on going now. So what is the response from SKT? What's game 2's ban phase? Let's get rid of this ad. We don't need that. You don't need ads on ads. Not in my YouTube videos. SKT really running down the clock on ban number 3. Let me just talk about SKT's actual thought process on banning non-popular champions. Or not that they're not popular. They're definitely popular. Rakan, Morgana, and Cassiopeia are all extremely strong, but it's that they're not popular bans. Whereas you see these bans like Elise, and I mean you're probably gonna see Samsung ban Zac here. Yeah, there it is. Elise, Rek'Sai, and other really strong picks in the jungle mainly. You even see the Caitlyn ban that comes out. But SKT actually don't opt for the Caitlyn this game, they opt for the Kalista. So something tells me that they're perfectly okay with playing against Caitlyn with that. I don't see a problem. Samsung hovering the Tristana to take it away. Not take it away, but to take away the fact that they're going to try and do that. No, they're not. They're not going to go for the Tristana, which they took last game, which they tried to use to get towers. You saw her take on bot tower and top tower, and she was dealing heavy damage. But they opt for the Jarvan. We need like a real color. Blue? No, that's not going to work. White? That kind of works. So they opt for Jarvan, they opt for Alistar, so they're looking for heavy engage. That's what's coming out for the beginning of the draft for Samsung. So they have heavy engage, and there's lots of carries to choose from. No carries have been prioritized, and the Caitlyn's still on the table. Jeez, I can't find a proper color. Caitlyn's still on the table for Samsung. They don't have to pick that Tristana, and they don't have to pick the Tristana anyway. They can pick other prioritized picks because SKT's not worried about Tristana, and they're not worried about Caitlyn either because they already have the Kalista. Anyway, Peanut goes ahead and he responds with the Gragas. The Gragas is really strong, hard early game, flash E, cask, explosive cask, really strong. And then SKT opts for Taric. I find this really interesting because I always talk about how Taric doesn't really win the laning phase, but after the laning phase and after he hits level 6, he becomes really useful, and the later the game goes, the more useful he becomes. And because he's matched with Kalista, who is actually really oppressive in lane, the only person who would really remove this power or really abuse this is Caitlyn. But Samsung opt for the Tristana anyway, for the same reasons. Nothing to read into that beyond what we've already stated. Anyway, as for the second ban phase, SKT bans out the Trundle. That's perfectly fine, and the Gnar is also banned out because they don't want the heavy late game engaged top laner. Samsung taking a second on their second ban. And they go ahead and ban the Talia to get it off of Faker's hands, which is really interesting because I wouldn't be surprised if Samsung actually opted to pick the Talia in this rotation right here. Because again, that Talia Tristana combo where you're able to end laning phase very quickly, and force leads very early is very strong. But Samsung opts for the Orianna, and this is definitely Orianna's an S tier mid, just because she has so much control, and the shockwave is absolutely devastating in fights and is very difficult to play against. Random messages. XD. Anyway, SKT says, "Hey, Maokai's still on the table," and this is part of the plan. I mean, SKT bans all of these champions that they don't like seeing, they don't like playing against. But what do they leave on the table? They leave all of these OP champions on the table. You see Maokai, you see Kalista, you see Gragas, you see Rek'Sai, you see Caitlyn, Orianna. Not that a lot of blue side have bans Orianna, but it's still a very very strong champion, and I would definitely say it's worth a ban. So they lock in the Maokai for top lane for Antara. So Antara's not going to be doing too much in the top lane. He's just going to be farming and turning into a super tank. And then they put Faker on Fizz, and this is particularly interesting to me because let's look at this team comp. Let's look at the setup. If you look at the setup, if this is a box, this is your box. Here you have Bang, and Taric, and then you have Gragas, and then you have Maokai, and you even have Fizz coming. Fizz can come from anywhere. Fizz is actually outside the box, and this is what my ideal team fight setup is. So you have three main tanks protecting carry, and the carry is a high damage, high DPS, and high burst carry. So that's what's really interesting about Kalista. She can engage with the Kalista ultimate, which is probably going to be on Taric. And with Taric's new passive, well, not so new anymore, but Taric's passive now actually is perfectly fine with Kalista. And then you have Maokai probably flanking, and you have Gragas probably flanking, and both of them are going to be heavy peel onto Bang. And then you have the Fizz who can gank from anywhere inside any team fight, because he's really just looking for a carry, because if he can land his ultimate, he pretty much secures a kill. So we see a very, very, very strong team fight comp coming out from SKT. And Samsung lock in the Shen. This Shen is a good response to the Fizz, because they want to keep their carries alive. They don't want the Fizz to be popping off. And it actually, that pick may have been what wins them the draft, because this is your standard double carry, double tank dive, and this is your single carry dive triple tank. So that they're very different. I assure you. But the reason why I would say Samsung wins is because they have overall more damage. Because they technically have 2 carries and a bruiser, whereas SKT only has 2 carries, and one of them's a dive carry, which is I'll talk about in a future video at some point about what I think about dive carries and how they function in the game. But let's talk about lane by lane basis, because that's going to be a little important here. So you're going to have Maokai versus Shen. This is just gonna say stagnant. This is very stagnant lane. Nothing's gonna happen. Nothing exciting. Um, in fact, you might not even see jungle pressure in the top lane just because getting one of these guys ahead of the other isn't very. It isn't very. It's not very useful. It's not gonna do that much. Then you see Fizz versus Orianna. And I think Fizz has the upper hand in this lane in the beginning. Or, well, not. Okay, so, like, let me be more clear. Level 1 through 1 and 2, Orianna is going to try and abuse Fizz, and Fizz is going to miss CS, right? That's all normal. But say level 4 comes by, Fizz is going to end up being greater than Ori. So you want to be really careful in that mid lane because it's going to be very back and forth, and you might even see another solo kill if one of the two players messes up. It would be very interesting. So then you have Kalista and Taric versus Trist Alistar. So in the beginning, pre-6, Samsung actually wins this lane. So Samsung has a winning lane. You have the mid matchup, which really can go either way depending on the level of when fights occur, when fights are forced. And then you have an even lane in the top lane. So there's not too much exciting things going on considering the natural lane setup. But what you can see is that we have a Gragas jungle and a Jarvan jungle, which both have high pressure. And you're probably going to see a lot of pressure surrounding mid lane. Okay. So that's all I have to say about the overall game state from before the game starts. But let's go ahead and get to game. You see your 5-man spread. That's nice. It's going to be very annoying, I'm sure. Gems, but no cowbell in this game. Very sad. I'm going to be very interested in how the junglers path this game because I definitely know for sure they're going to path they're going to path surrounding this mid lane. They're always going to be surrounding this mid lane. They're going to be looking for the opening. And it's more likely that Orianna pushes early. Because to abuse Fizz in the early game, she has to use Q, and if Fizz is all-wing CS like he would normally be, then you know that Orianna's Q is going to hit some of the minions, and then her wave is going to push. Whereas, especially at level 1, Fizz isn't going to do anything. And here's Orianna pushing in, Faker actually taking E first so he can farm a little bit more safely and make sure that he doesn't get pushed all the way in tower because he doesn't want to lose all of his minions. QV playing a little bit of aggressive. So we see that Gragas went from Wraith to red, and he's probably going from blue to Gromp to Wolves to mid. Or he's doing a very different path. You don't go mid after Wolves, but you go Wraiths, Red, Blue, Gromp, Wolves, and you full clear. It's a very interesting build path that was seen in LCK a couple patches ago, which they ran on Graves, and I think Nidalee did it too. Or maybe Nidalee went from Red to Wraiths. It was odd, but what this did was it allowed for a level 4 jungler to gank bottom lane right before his red buff ran out. And it was unique to blue side, so it gave blue side a lot more pressure in the bot lane, just due to how pathing occurred. Whereas on red side, mirroring that pathing would allow you to lead to top lane, which top lane it's going to depend on the matchup, on whether or not it's useful to gank top lane or not. So we see that J4 has gone from red to Wolves to blue, and he's going straight bottom lane. He's still level 3. He's 2 camps from 4. And he looks like he's going to give up. And we do see Gragas going to the Gromp. He's now going to go to the Wolves. He's going to be level 4, and he's going to be a little bit ahead of Haru because of how Haru was searching for a gank. Haru very instinctively sitting on the edge of a ward there. And this is really interesting for Haru, because Peanut is going to be going down towards Haru, or Haru's trying to steal away this. Oh dear, we're going to see a lot of tension. I'm surprised that Peanut didn't hit level 4 off of those 5 camps. I thought that he would, or maybe it does take 6 camps for 4, or maybe he was missing a scuttle crab. I'm not 100% sure on that pathing. Ooh. Okay, flash from Haru, flash from Faker. This is going to make it very difficult for Faker to CS. Now that he doesn't have flash and he's a melee against a ranged, he's not going to be doing too well. But he does go ahead and he uses his teleport. He doesn't want to miss any experience. He picks up the Dark Seal and boot, so he's going to be trying to CS. And the Dark Seal is going to help him stay in lane with the Corrupting Potion. You are going to see a natural about 20 CS lead in the mid lane, probably about 10 minutes. As far as top lane and bot lane go, we don't see, we see a small CS lead in terms of Tristana. There's 3 or 4 extra minions there going to Tristana, but not going to Kalista. And that may have been due to the weird invade that happened. Peanut trying to get damage there. Kyuve's under tower. Peanut's going to be going for a recall as well as Jarvan. Both of them started with a refillable potion. Jarvan goes ahead and picks up a long sword. That's standard. Peanut's going for Ruby Crystal. So Peanut's going to be going for Cinder Hulk. And Jarvan's going for Warrior. This is pretty much what we've seen in the past. Nothing new. Orianna's yet to back. And Faker's actually letting the lane push into him right now. He dragged these 3 minions out so that all of his minions would be pushed in and die. So he's freezing the lane towards him, and he's forcing Crown to stay in lane, because if Crown doesn't stay in lane, Faker's going to destroy the CS lead that Crown has. And that's the one advantage of having teleport in mid lane, where your enemy doesn't have teleport. And look now, Faker's doing the same thing. He's dragging all the minions up. He's gonna make Crown miss an entire minion wave on this back, and he's not gonna miss anything. But Samsung opts for Haru to go mid lane and to deal with that. And Faker actually jumps on Haru. The Shen ultimate's going to come out, but Peanut's here as well. Q comes out and the sapling comes out, but no kill comes out. But now the Shen ultimate's down. And I can guarantee you that the Shen ultimate ult CD is less than, or no, is greater than Fizz. So Fizz is going to be ready to play aggressive before Shen's ultimate is back up, and so he has to use this window of time uh, to find an opportunity. So we're not seeing too much anything too interesting happening. There's not too much pressure in the bot lane from either side because, and whoa, Kalista actually recovered the CS lead that Tristana had. That's really interesting. But there's a water dragon on the table, so neither team is actually prioritizing it very heavily. Faker's waiting for his Hextech Revolver, because that's when he's going to get a little bit of a power spike. He's going to be jumping on people, doing massive amounts of damage. You see Haru waiting in the winds. He's got level 6, so he's going to be ready to gank. Bang needs to be careful because he knows that if Alistar engages on him, it's going to be a trade that he loses. Even though Taric has a decent amount of sustain, he needs to be careful, especially in a minion wave like that. That had Core JJ been a little bit more apt to figure out what was going on there, he could have really punished. So we see Faker diving underground, the Q ultimate. We see Haru coming up from the sideline, damage going out to Faker, leading him to half health. And we see Peanut sitting in the back, knew that Haru might be in the sideline. So Peanut was actually sticking by just in case, because Faker was going for a solo kill. And Faker did not want to be put into a 2v1 situation. We do know that Faker's teleport is back up, so after this big minion wave that he is holding, and he CS the whole thing. He might go for blue and then teleport back to lane. So that would be good. And if he does that, he's going to get Hextech Revolver, which will be really good for damage. Looks like he's just returning back to mid lane. So Faker's being greedy here. You see, Faker's holding on to more gold than he needs. But what we do see him buy with that is he buys Merc Treads. So that's what he was waiting for. He really wanted these Merc Treads. Because the Hextech Revolver is only 330 gold. Like you're not holding on to that for a while. But he gets Merc Treads, which is really interesting. I don't know if that. No, I think that's the correct pathing because I think it's really important that you get Merc Treads against Orianna because you're trying to sustain the lane because you're melee. Wow, that Taric ult really was close. You're trying to sustain the lane because you're melee, and the mobility is going to help him CS very well, because he's melee. He can't be harassed by Orianna and CS safely. He has to be able to play around the Orianna ball and still be able to get all the CS he needs. But Faker definitely has been playing lane well because there was a huge CS lead in favor of Crown, and Faker has destroyed that. And that partly because Faker has teleport and Crown does not, but also partly because Faker did not miss really any CS that he didn't need to. And Faker has good wave clear now, so he's going to be soaking that up. No ads. Top lane has been very slow. Shen has Tiamat, a little bit of magic resist. Maokai is holding on to a bit of gold. I'm not sure, because this is 1200 or 1100, and this is 1100, and that's 900. So you see 2400 gold build from Maokai, and you see that's 12, that's 450, that's 400. You see a lot coming out from Shen. Ultimate from Faker gets onto Crown. Crown has to flash away. Crown does not have flash anymore. And stay knowledgeable about how Fizz's ultimate cooldown is not too large. So on his back, Maokai goes ahead and he buys Merc Treads. That's going to be really good against Shen. Shen's going to do a little bit of magic damage with his Q. And also going to be removing the taunt a lot quicker. You see a 3-man invade by Samsung, but they don't know where anybody is, so they're very scared on continuing this invade. So Peanut's going to go ahead and finish his red buff perfectly fine. You see a 4-man stack in the jungle from Samsung, and they go ahead and they split up. Bot lane returning to bot lane, and you see Jarvan starting to go for his red buff. Antara trying to steal away some of those raptors. Deny as much gold as possible. So something interesting that we do see is Peanut actually went for the English Ludens, the AP jungle item. It doesn't matter. While Haru went for Warrior, and what's particularly interesting is it's 13 minutes, and neither jungler has boots, which improves your ganking potential heavily. So this is what I've been talking about Tristana all the time. Eventually, she just gets the tower, and you can't stop her. As long as she has a support that's able to peel for her a little bit, she's able to support. She's able to get the tower, force it, really make sure that she gets first blood tower. So you see a big gold lead going towards Samsung. And that gold lead actually ends up with Tristana's getting an early Infinity Edge. Bang's going to be trying to return the favor, getting some damage onto the bot lane Samsung tower, but as Kalista, you know, you don't have that much tower pressure. And then you see Peanut actually is starting to solo the Rift Herald, and SKT has had vision control in this river for most of the game. So I don't think he's even going to be spotted. And Gragas is particularly good at taking Rift Herald by himself with his W. So Maokai roams up just to get some vision, and Viz roams up in the jungle for the same reason, just to see if Jarvan is peering by, just to see if Samsung has realized that that he was taking Rift Herald in the first place. So Samsung with the gold lead right now, they have a lot more power than SKT just because their ADC is going to be not only having more raw damage, but the same amount of attack speed due to Tristana's Q. And you're also going to be seeing the actual crit, even though if it's 20%, that's still on average 1 out of 5 hits. You see a lot more DPS coming out from Tristana, whereas you're not going to see this DPS coming out from Ballista for most of the game. And really, Tristana as a kind of hyper carry is going to outdamage Callista for most of the game now that she's ahead. So second water dragon has spawned, and after taking mid lane tower by rotating Tristana into the mid lane and having the Orianna pressure the mid lane tower, so Orianna gets pressure on the tower so that Tristana can take it. You saw that occur, that was free. And then they move on to a second water dragon. So now that there's a 1500 gold lead for Samsung and 2 waters, they're going to be really insanely good at sieging and counter sieging. And that's going to be really good because they're always going to be a little bit healthy, especially for when this Rift Herald is going to take place. So SKT has to look for, I don't know what the fuck I was doing. SKT has to look for an opening where the tower will be free. With Rift Herald. And that's exactly what they're doing right now. So SKT, very prompted, very open, understanding of what they need to do. But now that Fizz is bot lane, they're making a 4-man rotation top, and they're going to go ahead for the top tower. So what SKT is going to do, they're going to rotate mid, and they're going to go for the mid tower. So you're going to see another trade. And then overall, you're going to see a 1 tower lead in favor of Samsung. And that tower lead is also going to be part of the First Blood tower lead. So they do use the Rift Herald in the bottom lane, and they actually rotate everyone in the bottom. This is really interesting because Samsung realized that SKT could have rotated mid, and I think they knew because I think Gragas showed up in this ward over here walking towards mid lane. So they decided to bring their bot lane towards mid, and just let Orianna and Jarvan go into the top lane and take that tower, and that was successful. So Wolf actually roams down with Peanut into bottom lane where they have this Rift Herald, and they decide, you know what, you may not let us take a tower on one part of the map, but we are going to get a tower to trade for the tower that you took from us. So they're going to go ahead and get the inner tower. So technically, after this tower goes down, SKT is going to have the what I call the tower positional advantage, so the TPA. And what that means is, even though SKT's base looks like this, Samsung's base looks like this. So Samsung has lost complete control around the dragon, and because they've lost complete control around the dragon, they have no control. They have no right to go looking for vision there. And then another thing is that because their base looks like this, as long as SKT has the minion wave pushing up onto the inhibitor tower, SKT can pressure the other 2 lanes for free because someone has to respond to that inhibitor tower, because you have to agree that the inhibitor tower is more important than the outer tower. And this is why I actually applaud SKT for going into that bot lane and finding that opening, because now that they have the inner tower broken, they have a lot more tower positional advantage. Very, very good concept. And you would definitely argue that an outer tower is not worth as much as an inner tower, for the same reason that an inner tower is not worth as much as an inhibitor tower. So on to interesting things about the game. You see Maokai is going for Abyssal Mask. That's going to be really good for himself, Gragas, and Fizz. Gragas is going for a Spirit Visage, it looks like. Fizz is going for his Lich Bane, which is when he's going to hit a huge power spike. And I don't know what Fizz is going to be building for the rest of the game, but he could go to Ludens, to Void, to Zhonya's, or something like that. Although one of these items has to be sacrificed in exchange for Rabadons. At least in order for Fizz to be as oppressive as he needs to, because a lot of Fizzes actually don't end up buying the Proto Belt, but they end up buying Rabadons instead. Not first item, of course, but in the game. Jarvan actually goes ahead and he smites that blue buff away, so props to Haru for that good smite seal. Callista's almost finished her Runeans, so she's going to start becoming more useful, and Taric does have Ardent Sensor, so he's also going to be starting to hit this mid-game spike where he becomes useful. As for Samsung, we see Shen with the Titanic Hydra. You see... I'm not sure if... I think... Oh, wait, what's happening? I apologize. Let me go back. I'm too interested in the builds right now. I think Jarvan's building a Hex Drinker. You see Orianna going for the English, the Banshee's Veil, and then you see Tristana going for the Static Shiv. So that all seems standard. So let's see. Ruler gets caught out for a second, but runs back, and then Core JJ finds a combo onto Callista, and SKT has to back off because they understand that they don't have the positional advantage, and someone now has to deal with Shen, so someone has to move down with Shen, and they're going to be a 3v4 versus mid lane. So you see Maokai move down, and this is really bad because Bang is the only source of wave clear. Only source of safe wave clear. Because definitely Fizz can wave clear with E, but can he do that safely without being punished by Orianna or Jarvan? No. And that would be one of the weaknesses that you consider of SKT's team comp. So the Tristana just moves forward. You see lots of damage coming out. So now that Tristana has broken the inner tower, you could argue that the positional advantage that SKT had, due to the way the towers were, still does not really stand anymore. Technically, they do have. Technically, when it comes to actually taking towers, if SKT is in the position to take towers, they can do it more so easily, just because now that SKT's base is so compact, they can rotate quickly from one tower to another, and they can save the other towers very easily. SKT's really prioritizing this Mountain Dragon, so you see Peanut and Bang going to it as soon as it spawns. Tarik's going to be showing up in the mid. You see pings from Samsung around the Baron, and this is really good because Samsung knows that they have the gold lead. They know that they have a fed ADC, and that ADC now has Last Whisper. So you're not going to see any problems with Samsung wanting to team fight, because now that they have an Orianna who's at 2 items, which is when Orianna starts to get particularly annoying. They have Tristana, who's also at 2.5 items, but that one of those half items is one of the most important AD items in the game, which is Last Whisper. So now Tristana's ready to be a tank buster, and she's ready to kill carries with this crit build. And Orianna with one shockwave could really do a lot of damage. And because they have a Shen on the team, they're not worried about the Fizz and the assassin ability that he has. Oh dear, that's not what I meant to do. That was my Facebook. XD. So we're going to see a replay of what happened in mid lane here. So Haru and Core JJ sitting on a pink ward. Peanut moves in, does not opt for the flash. Bang positions very close to the bush where he doesn't have vision. So that was his mistake. His positioning was just particularly bad. He could have been positioning a lot more differently. So SKT being a little bit more strategical with how they approach the place where they don't have vision. Race being taken away very quickly by Samsung, so they can't be stolen. Pink ward placed in that same bush where Bang got jumped, so that SKT is a little bit more pressure, but they are still at a 2,000 gold deficit. And they really have to understand that Samsung is okay with going for this Baron, because they have tanks for the Baron and they have DPS from the Tristana, so that Baron can definitely go down fairly quickly. Peanut actually making a mistake, walking so close. Look at this. Look at this. Was Peanut not looking? No, it's just that Peanut does not have vision here. But let's take a look at how this got here. So, do we know where these guys are? No, they've been walking through dark area the entire time. So Peanut actually had no idea that they were there, and he gets engaged on and killed immediately. And this could really turn into a Baron by Samsung. They go ahead and they place pink wards around the Baron. SKT has no smite. There's no reason for them to not. They're not starting it. They're just hovering. I guess they want more. So at this point, it seems to me that Samsung does not feel comfortable (5v4). So they're giving a lot of respect over to Faker, because they're saying Faker could cause a big problem if we start this Baron, and if we group up around the Baron, the actually long-range Fizz ult ends up being really large and has a 1.4 AP scaling ratio with a fairly decent base damage. So that would not be very healthy going into a Baron pit where you see a team grouped up. So Samsung choosing to respect the Faker. Samsung backing, starting to hit some key item spikes. You see Locket coming out from Alistar. The Banshee's Veil is finished. You see Mortal Reminder coming out. I guess that's from Maokai and Gragas, and Taric as well. And kind of Kalista, but Kalista doesn't really have too much healing right now. But that's already on top of Moral Anomicon, so they're targeting everybody. And then you see the Knight's Vow come out, which is going to be placed onto Ruler. And then you even see a Bramble Vest onto Cuvée. And you see Orianna going for that early Void Staff. She's going to be going for that Void. Unless it's a Rabadon, she's going for a Void Staff. But I definitely think the Void Staff could be very interesting. Samsung's getting surrounded right now. Here comes the Shen ult. The Faker ult ends up missing. The Maokai ult comes out. And they clean up the Maokai very quickly. This was obvious miscommunication from SKT. Let's look at it again, because SKT seemed very prepared to go in, but they have to rely on their individual win conditions. So Fizz teleports in the backline along with Antara. Fizz goes ahead. He misses the Fizz ult. This is not allowed to miss if they want to win the fight. If they want to engage, he's not allowed to miss. And honestly, I don't know. I feel like Faker was very early to jump the gun there, because there is a lot of CC on the side of SKT in which Faker could land his ultimate while someone is stunned. and that would be a lot more beneficial than trying to ult a target that has flash. Who flashed there? Oh, I think it was Maokai. Never mind. He just missed completely. He didn't have any vision. He just went for it. That was really bad. He jumped the gun very early. So Maokai's dead. Samsung still hovering the Baron. You see a 3,000 gold lead now, and because they have the double water dragon, they're perfectly fine with healing up after that. Ruler engages on Faker, knowing Faker does not have his ultimate. So Samsung really just trying to pressure this Baron. Samsung feels really unsafe starting this Baron, and I'm not really sure why. I feel like they have a lot more pressure. Maybe they're waiting for cooldowns. Core JJ is going to be sitting out on the sideline trying to zone people out. The Baron's going to be going down very quickly. 2,000, 1,000. It's going to be taken down by Samsung with 0 contest by SKT. And this is when I would say game over. That's game over. How will Samsung end the game? Well, it's very simple. They have a 1-4. So Shen's going to split, and they just pressure 2 lanes. In this case, they could actually pressure top and bot because they want to get these 2 turrets, because they want to maximize their gold lead. To safely secure win. If they wanted to play a little bit more aggressive, then they could send Shen into either top or bot, and then 4 mid. And then another variation would be sending Shen mid and 4 in either side lane. Another particularly interesting variation of Samsung's team composition right now is they run a 2-1-2, where or a 1-2-2, or however you want to call it. But I do not think that, like, because you would see these 2 pair, and then you would see these 2 pair, and then you would see Cuvée in a side lane, and Cuvée could ult to either of these guys, or, well, in this case, teleport, because his ult is on cooldown for a while. So essentially what that does is you have one lane where you have pressure, so you put Shen bot. So say, here, let's draw it so that it's a little bit more clear. You put Shen bot, and you put probably Crown Haru mid. Or no, you want the safest lane mid because they're going to be further pushed up. So you put Trist Ali, and then you put J4 Ori top, and J4 Ori, you're going to get this tower, Shen's going to get this tower, and the SKT can't defend the other 2 towers because you have the Tristana in the mid lane, and you can't actually kill the Tristana because you have Alistar, and then Cuvée, being in the side lane by himself in bottom, can actually be mid or top at any given time, and this is really just forcing the end of the game. And that would be a very aggressive play, by the way. That would be aggression at the max, because that would be opening up a lot of opportunities for SKT to maybe 5-0 a lane and kill 2 or 3 people on the side of Samsung. And if they kill 2 or 3 people, then it's going to delay the usage of Baron. It's going to stop the usage of Baron for at least until the next Baron's going to occur. and it'll delay the game to a further late game where Maokai becomes stronger, Fizz becomes very strong, and Kalista becomes strong. So we see an engage coming from Maokai onto core JJ. Ruler is going to be by himself. The explosive cast comes out, but Ruler flashes it. And we see QV in the top lane. We see blue pings from SKT to go ahead and prioritize this mid lane tower. There's a stone dragon coming up, and QV's in the top lane going ahead and taking down that inner tower. So this is really interesting to me. So SKT right now is making an even trade. Oh, they're actually full 5-0 mid. This is a very high risk play. So SKT is trying to make the game as high risk as possible. And what this does is it takes Samsung and tells Samsung, like, hey guys, what the fuck is going on? Because how do we respond safely? How do we respond without losing the trade? Because now that SKT is forced so hard, how do they respond without losing? So Samsung's actually going, and they're going to go for this bottom lane turret. They're going to get the top lane turret as well. And they have the Baron recalls. And you're going to see a couple Baron recalls go out. And SKT is going to actually get the inhibitor because they're not going to be stopped by 3 people. But what Samsung is going to do is try and stop their backs because they're going to get this inhibitor for free. And because they have Tristana, they can keep on pushing. Like this can keep on going. There you see the Shen ultimate coming out. Faker gets a lot of damage on Ruler. The Flash E comes out from Gragas. Ruler actually sitting on so little health. Gets taken down. Tariq Sun goes out onto QV. E's out. Antara gets hit by the E, but not much is going to happen. So now you see SKT here with 1 Nexus tower trying to defend 4v4. But they can defend because Ruler's dead. And Ruler's the misfed on Samsung. Ruler is actually holding most of this gold lead. So Samsung just gives up the fact that SKT has secured an inhibitor and that they can go ahead and take Dragon for free. Or they should. They still have Baron buffs. They still have Baron buffs. It looks like they're giving this away to SKT. This is really odd. This is really odd. I'm not really sure what to say, but let's talk about the state of the game. Let's talk about the state of the game. Because this is interesting, I can tell you that. And I know that you probably think that too. But SKT's base looks like this. And then Samsung's base looks like this. So this is some of the most awkward plays, shot calls that I've seen in a while. Well, technically SKT has the positional advantage. But they don't have the gold advantage. So can they use a position? Can you use a positional advantage when you are at a gold deficit? That's a good question. A tower positional advantage while at a gold deficit, and this is something that I said earlier. Like SKT had it, but they weren't able to do much with it. So my response to this question would be, it depends on your team comp, but in this case, because SKT is running double teleport, they can actually have the Fizz clear out the bottom lane and Maokai clear out the top lane. And because they have super minions mid, then you have Bang, Peanut, and Wolf in mid, and they can rotate to top or rotate bot when necessary, and it's very difficult for Samsung to push the mid lane and keep up minions because they have to push through super minions. And Faker will deal with the super minions in bottom lane, and while he's dealing with the super minions in bottom lane, he's going to get a little bit more fed. And you're starting to see some weird item spikes come out for SKT that I didn't note before. But I mean, SKT has the Knight's Vow, SKT has the Righteous Glory, SKT is about to have, I believe that's a Random's Omen, and you have the Bloodthirster coming out, you have the Zhonya's coming out, but this isn't going to be not unmatched. You see the Rabadon's is going to be coming out from Crown soon, and he has Void Staff, so that's going to be a huge power spike. You see that Tristana has Hex Drinker, and she's actually getting more magic resist. I'm not sure what that's for, but we'll definitely see, as this game doesn't seem to be ending very shortly from now. And you see the Thornmail coming out, and then you might even see a Sunfire Cape, or you would see a Dead Man's Plate. Facebook notifications, very popular. So Samsung still has Baron buffs, so they still want to use their Baron buffs. They're going to be rotating the jungle here. They see that SKT has a blue buff up, so they're going to go ahead and steal that away, deny it. Fizz isn't going to be taking it anyway. He's in the bottom lane. So this is what I was talking about earlier. Samsung has set up a 1-4, and because the other lane has an inhibitor down, it has to constantly be dealt with. So they put the 4 mid, and they put 1 top, and Shen is going to have ultimate in a couple seconds, so that's going to be ready. So SKT has to donate a lot of resources to, fuck, that's not what I meant to do. SKT has to donate a lot of resources in order to save their tower. The only benefit that SKT currently has is that Samsung no longer has Baron, and because mid lane is shorter, what you see actually is that a mid lane wave will hit here, and then a top lane wave will hit later, and you can see that because this minion wave is linked to this minion wave, and therefore this minion wave will also be in this position when the top minion wave is in this position. And you know this, this will continue to happen, so SKT can continue to manage these waves, and they have to somehow manage the bot lane super minions while in between these two waves, and in between this wave and the upcoming wave. So it's a lattice of waves, and then there's on the sideline more. Now the big problem is that the top lane wave actually hits at the same time that the bottom lane wave hits. Samsung might be looking to push on this tower here, but they're too scared. They don't want to mess up. I don't think Samsung really understands how ahead they are in gold, because really they should be able to win a team fight, and they should be able to rely on their mechanics enough to win that team fight. But they're going to be getting free damage whenever possible. You see top lane tower actually just lost about 60% of its health in that one Tristana Q. And SKT just moving back and forth between top lane and mid lane. And you see Fakers clearing out the super minions as they come. Peanut taking a scheduled back because he's out of mana. Antara's moving forward so he can try and manage this minion wave before it hits the tower because he wants his tower to regen health. And yes, these towers regen health. It's about 1 per second. And that's not a lot, but if you can hold on, then it can be a lot. You might see a Hail Mary play from SKT soon. I don't know what they're waiting on for this, but really it's going to come down to the Baron. There's going to be a fight at Baron. Fight at Baron. And whoever gets Baron may win. And maybe it's not whoever secures Baron. Well, you have to, whoever secure Baron leads to an advantage in the fight. But due to the fact that currently there is a 5,000 gold lead, again, tipping point, SKT actually has to secure the Baron if they want any chance of winning. Faker popping the crown, Banshee's Veil. With Proto Belt, so you're going to see that 30-second cooldown on Proto Belt, or 35 seconds. Samsung is actually afraid to Baron because they're afraid of messing up. So Samsung has been playing this game very safely. Whoa, there's the Fizz ultimate. That missed Fizz ultimate was game. SKT can't win anymore. See, it was very sad that Faker probably did not understand that if he threw the Fizz ultimate and missed, he loses the game. I've had similar situations happen with teams I've worked with. Not with Fizz, but with other champions whose ultimates are very powerful. You're gonna see a Hail Mary play come out from SKT. It's gonna happen in about 8 seconds when Fizz ultimate's up. They're not going to let this inhibitor go without a fight. There's the flash from Taric, but it misses. Ruler jumps out. Peanut's now out of mana. This inhibitor's going for free. They weren't able to find an opening, and even when they were able to find an opening, they missed. They missed the Taric stun. Faker missed his ultimate earlier. So not able to do much. And Faker does have Void Staff now, so he is able to cut through the carries. Ooh, Faker ultimate actually coming out into Crown. The explosive cast is going to come out. The Taric ult comes out, but then you see the shockwave onto 3 people. Faker in the back line going ahead and soloing Crown. Bang's got a lot of damage coming out. He's got Ren stacks on everybody. Looks like he's going to be taking down Alistar. Ruler is just not putting out the damage output. They need to Baron if they wanna stay in this game. But let's look at how that happened, because this was really odd. So let's look at their pathing. So Samsung, the worst thing that they could do right now is split up and allow a pick. So that's the worst thing that they could do right now. So you see Haru, Crown, Core JJ, everybody's together, everybody's moving up. You got the Knight's Vow on the Ruler, and then you see the tanks. Wow. The tanks separate themselves from the carries. This was a insane mistake. By Samsung. I don't think they go on to win this game, but I don't think they go on to lose this game. I don't think Samsung wins this game, or I don't think Samsung loses. God damn it! I don't think SKT wins, but this really made the game a lot more difficult because Crown was able to go down in the fight, and he really needed to stay alive as kind of the support in a fight. Because he's a large amount of damage, and he's a lot of damage on carries, and his ultimate wasn't able to hit Bang, and it wasn't able to hit Faker. So even though it hit Wolf and Antara and Peanut, it wasn't a useful shockwave. Because I mean, look at Peanut's health and look at Antara's health. They got hit by that shockwave, yeah, they're perfectly fine. Or no, Antara wasn't in the fight yet. He used Righteous Glory to catch up. He was far behind. But it meant nothing for Peanut, and Wolf didn't care as well either. Because eventually Kalista becomes annoying to the point where she can shred these tanks. And if Tristana isn't able to shred the tanks, then she's not going to be able to win these fights without Crown. Because Crown is going to be the main source of damage on Bang and Faker. And if Crown can't take out Bang and Faker, who is going to take out Crown and Faker? Because Ruler can't do it by himself unless Faker and Crown, or Faker and Bang, make very large mispositioning mistakes. Wow. Ruler actually jumping onto Wolf might go down here. Looks like he gets one kill. Kalista's going to be doing a lot of damage. Gragas goes ahead and secures the kill. Jarvan also dies. This is going to be a free Baron in terms of SKT, and Faker's in the base dealing with minions. I would say that Orianna can steal, but it would be one of the most impressive steals I've ever seen. Because you're talking about Ren stacks. Yeah, you're talking about Ren stacks that just did 1300 damage. So now that we have everything up, oh, and they got top tower too. This is so interesting. Wait. Yep. Just a recap. They went here and they left the carries here. Tristana has self-peel, but Orianna does not really have self-peel unless Orianna puts her ball right here and ults right there. But she was not quick enough to do that. Faker used the Q ult. That's a good combo. And Shen ult was not even able to keep Orianna alive. It was able to keep her alive long enough for the shockwave. Oh wait, the shockwave did hit Bang. Bang was just able to recover all of his health. Because no one else hit Bang. No one focused Bang. because they were too busy dealing with Faker. So SKT is feeling a little bit comfortable with this Baron. Okay. So I want to take a really good look at how this game is right now, because we saw a very large gold lead, but the gold lead is almost negligible at this point. We do see Tristana has more magic resist than the Chucha with the English Purificación, no, Quicksilver Sash and Maul Mortis. But we see a full build on Shen that's with a Gargoyle Stone Plate. You see 2 Lockets coming out for Samsung. It's just so supporty, so in support of this Tristana. But you see, the problem is Tristana's had to build 2 defensive items. So she really is not a hyper carry. In fact, she's more of a bruiser at this point. And Crown does have Rabadons now, so that is a huge difference. On the side of SKT, we see a 4-item Maokai versus the 5-item Shen, and you can see that because there's a 100 difference in CS. And then you see the Mortal Reminder from Callista, because she wants to melt these tanks, because you see 3 tanks. And she has Quicksilver Sash as well. Faker's building towards possibly a Rabadons, possibly a Ludens. And you do see Abyssal Mask coming out for Maokai, which is going to be helping out the rest of the team a lot. So this is a very high risk, intense game. So SKT has the Baron buff. They have 2 minutes and 15 seconds in the Baron buff. Thank you for having a timer up here, LCK. Instead of making me read it off of one of these champions. Because Baron buff is 3.5 minutes for anybody who doesn't know. Looks like they're trying to power farm Faker. You saw Faker pushing out the bot. You see Faker pushing out the top now. And Faker is teleport, so he's not afraid. He's not afraid of there being a fight breaking out because he is ready to teleport into the fight. So you're going to see Faker's actually going up this next CS wave. The Greg Sparrow ends up starting the Elder Dragon, and Elder is going to be going down a little bit slowly. This Elder could change the game because the Elder buff is now going to last longer than the Baron buff. Fizz is going to go ahead and get the blue buff. Alistar jumps over the wall to make sure that the Elder was secured safely. Fizz goes ahead and starts teleporting in, but he cancels it. Which is fine, because I do not think that taking this fight would have been very safe. Because now Elder, 2 minutes 30 seconds, going to be very difficult for SKT to deal with. So Faker's gonna back now. You know that he's holding a lot of gold, and that may be why he canceled his teleport, because he's like, hey, I might have Rabadons or I might have Ludens, whichever item that he's prioritizing right now. I really think Rabadons is what he's prioritizing, just because it'll give him more damage overall. There it is. There's the Rabadons. It's just a mathematical fact. And look at this. Look at this graph. Look at how Samsung played safely and very effectively up until that one mistake. That one mistake really changed their game. So it would be wise for Samsung to try and enforce something while they have this Elder buff. So they're going ahead and they're going to push mid lane. They're not pushing it very confidently. 60 seconds on the clock to secure 2 inhibitors. That's what they have. Because if they can secure the inhibitors, they can stall the game till the next Baron. But they have to be careful because Faker's on the sidelines ready to flank. And look at this setup that I was talking about and before the game started. Look at this is exactly how I had the game set up. I talked about how there was a box, and I talked about how Kallista's in the back, and you have Gragas flanking from one side, and Maokai flanking from the other, and then you have Taric with Kallista, and Taric can move in with the Kallista ultimate, and then Faker can flank from anywhere. Faker can flank from here, Faker can flank from here, Faker can, I don't know, he can try flanking from here. It might not work too well, but he's just looking for any opening that he can. 40 seconds on the clock to secure both inhibitors. There's one. So it took them a whole 25 seconds to secure one. Can they move into the other lane and secure the other? It looks like they will not be doing that because they do not feel safe with securing this inhibitor without minions, which is really interesting to me because at this point in the game, the minions don't really mean all that much. Oh no, here they go. 15 seconds on the clock. They're making a rotation in the bot lane. Ruler forward, Antara on the sideline. Fizz is going to be spotted in a ward, so he's going to be flanking. Crown's going to keep him at bay. There's the Elder Dragon buff. SKT is ready to go in whenever they're comfortable. There's the ultimate. Goes ahead and hits Core JJ. Not going to do that much damage. Doesn't end up hitting anybody else. Samsung feel much more comfortable now that the Fizz ultimate is on cooldown. But remember, Fizz ultimate is only on about a 30-second cooldown. We can see that it's already halfway off the cooldown. Faker's getting poked a little bit, but because Faker's ult is on cooldown, Samsung really wants this second inhibitor. They want to use the advantage while they have it. During the window. Ooh. There's the ult coming out from Antara. There's the Fizz ult. Locks on the Crown. You see the Shen ult coming out. Lots of damage going out on the Crown. He's only half health right now. Faker Zonya's the Shockwave. Lots of damage going out on the Crown. Wow. I'd say that during this game, Samsung does not know the cooldown of Fizz ult. And this may be because they don't play against Fizz a lot, because Fizz, I don't know, you don't see him that much. I really like Fizz, and I think Fizz is very usable, but it's definitely hard to play against. And now that he has Rabadons, he's really doing a lot of damage. And wow, hold on, let's take a look at Bang's build here for a second. Look at Bang's build. He has Blade of the Ruined King, Merc Scimitar, Bloodthirster, and then he has the Runans with Berserker's Greaves. So he has all the attack speed he needs at 1.85. That's a very comfortable attack speed for Kallista. 356 damage, no crit. He's not worried about crit at all. He has full lifesteal. 10, 12, 22, what is that? 37% lifesteal? Or is it 34? It's a large amount, and it's a large amount with Runehands. At this point, SKT can win this game. It's really sad that Samsung didn't know how to end the game. When they had the chance. And yes, they had a chance to win the game. There was a 5,000 gold lead plus Baron buff on this team earlier in the game. But now that gold means nothing. In fact, they're even at a gold deficit, but that doesn't really matter anymore because everybody's approaching 6 items. Everybody's actually, mostly everybody's at 6 items. And again, oh wait, check this out. No, never mind, nothing's changed. I thought Tristana's build had changed for a second, but no, she still has the 2 defensive items. And she just doesn't have enough crit or enough burst to really be the hyper carry that she needs to be. SKT is 2 minutes on Baron. They're pushing out all 3 lanes. They have Maokai in the bottom lane, Fizz in the mid lane. And Fizz is fine with being in mid lane alone because he's very safe, and it's very hard for these guys to engage on them. And that's one fault of Samsung's team comp. They have no, they have hard engage. It's on J4, but that's it. That's their only engage. I mean, they have Alistar that can follow that up. But Alistar isn't usually good at primary engage. He's usually more of a follow-up because his range is short. I've been very impressed that SKT is actually going to win the second game. Unless they make a huge mistake. I mean, everybody's at 6 items. If they make a mistake and these 60-second death timers occur, something wrong could happen. And Maokai just took it back. And he's going to be walking back. He has teleport, but he's not particularly concerned with using that teleport right now. So SKT being very patient with the Maokai backing, but they only have 45 seconds on this Baron here, and they need to secure this inhibitor before that Baron runs out, or else they're not going to be able to. Yeah, this is all boiling down to one team fight. And as I said before, I don't think Tristana has the damage in order to be able to win this fight. Faker's not able to flank in this position, so he's sitting in the back. You see a 4-man shockwave, not really doing too much damage. Faker gets the ultimate out, lots of damage on the Crown. Crown goes down. Faker's trying to deal with the backline. Cuvee jumps onto Faker. Damage comes out from Cuvee. Faker gets taken down. Bang's just ripping through the front line of Samsung. Untara goes ahead and he jumps on Ruler there, but no real follow-up there, and SKT is going to be looking to finish this game right here. You see 60-second death timers that have come out. The flash heat from Gragas comes out. QV goes to jump in. QV going to be taking a lot of damage, but how many? Bang had been focusing the tower there. Ruler gets taken out very quickly. QV barely makes it back to the Summoner's Fountain before he's taken out, and you're going to see a side of 2-0 in the favor of SKT. Very impressive game. I definitely would not have believed it if when Samsung had a 5,000 gold lead and and Baron that SKT could win. But SKT is just they're so good at the late game. They don't make any mistakes. And SKT and Samsung did not know how to properly attain all three inhibitors with that Baron. And they were very scared, and Samsung being very scared prevented them from finishing that game when they might have been able to. Anyway, that's game 2, so we'll see game 3 in a separate video. So thank you for watching.